Hi guys, it's me ChazzaHD and welcome to this full review of qualifying. By the way, if you're watching this live, sorry about the delay, but for some reason I tried to go live and my live dashboard, well, I wasn't going live, and it appears for some reason my OBS disconnected to my YouTube account and just wasn't syncing up, so that's annoying. But I am now live, which is a good thing, so that's all sorted hopefully for tomorrow. But anyway, today we are doing a live review of qualifying for the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix, of course the 1000th Grand Prix weekend, and qualifying ended about 3 to 4 hours ago. It was pretty good, nothing special, nothing amazing or great, but it was pretty good. And I think there's plenty to talk about in terms of what happened, and there was plenty of surprises in qualifying today, and we are going to get into that in this review of qualifying. But if you did miss qualifying and you don't know the results, then I am now going to reveal them to you right now. So, getting his first pole position of 2019 is Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton has ended up in second, with Sebastian Vettel third, Charles Leclerc fourth, Max Verstappen fifth, Pierre Gasly in P6, and then Ricciardo is P7, Hülkenberg is P8, Kevin Magnussen is P9, and Romain Grosjean is P10. By the way, I know it might be confusing that they finished P9 and P10 with no lap time, but they did complete, of course, lap times to get into the top 10 shootout, but did not set a lap time in Q3. So I just want to explain that in case you guys are confused. And then getting knocked out in Q2 was Danny Kvyat, Sergio Perez, Kimi Raikkonen, Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. And getting knocked out in Q1, Lance Stroll, George Russell, Robert Kubica, Antonio Giovinazzi and Alexander Albon. Giovinazzi did not set a lap time because of some kind of issue with his car, and Alexander Albon could not make it out because he crashed his car really badly in practice 3, and his team didn't have the time to rebuild it in time for qualifying. So those are the results, and that is basically the grid for the 1000th Formula 1 Grand Prix tomorrow. But now, let's get into the review of the teams and start, of course, at the very, very top. And we'll start with Mercedes and also Valtteri Bottas, who had a great session and has this weekend been absolutely fantastic. He's been right there with Lewis Hamilton. Most of the time, he has actually been faster than Lewis Hamilton, which at this track, I know he did it last year, but that's quite impressive for him to do. But getting pole for him is just great because, pole position at this track, if you look historically, pole position is a very, very important place to be. And we've had plenty of race winners at this race from pole position. For example, in 2004, 2005, 2008, 2009, 2012, 2014, 15, list goes on. It's a very important position to start from, and he deserves it. He was great throughout the session. Yes, Lewis Hamilton did not, I don't think he did, Lewis Hamilton, improve his lap time at the end of Q3, so you could argue that Bottas was lucky, but that's down to Lewis not producing quite the lap that he should have. And Valtteri did actually improve on his lap time and stayed on pole position and is fully deserving of pole. And it's really nice to see Bottas having, so far, a great weekend. And hopefully he can build on that tomorrow, because the car looks very fast and Valtteri looks also very fast at this track. But Valtteri came out and said this right after qualifying had finished. He said, "It's been a good weekend so far, starting from pole. The lap was okay, not completely how I wanted, but luckily it was good enough for pole. The car has been really good this weekend." And that's true. The car has been very good this weekend, and I think has definitely stunned Ferrari in terms of the speed they had when it really mattered. I think Ferrari were a bit surprised as to how quick that Silver Arrow car was. But for Bottas, of course, he finished P1 in qualifying. This is his first 2019 pole position. And interestingly, this is the first front row lockout for Mercedes in Shanghai since 2015. And that race, they went on to get the 1-2. And honestly, as I'll get onto in a moment, when I complete my review of the team, they're likely to get the 1-2 that they got in 2015. They're likely to get that again tomorrow in the 2019 edition of this Grand Prix. They're looking very strong, are Mercedes. But for Lewis Hamilton, a good session. It could have been better though. It really could have been better. The first run in Q3, Bottas only just edged ahead of Lewis Hamilton. But then on the final run, Lewis just didn't quite hook up that lap to get pole position. Bottas was very good today. I'm not taking it away from Valtteri Bottas, but Lewis could have definitely got pole position. There's no doubt about that. Lewis could have got pole position. It was right there for him to take, but he just did not put the lap together to get pole. So he will be disappointed not getting pole position, but still front row lockout. I think he's happy with that, and I think that's a good enough thing for Lewis, considering that he is the team leader at that team, and he does see Ferrari and their drivers as his main rivals for 2019 rather than Valtteri Bottas, even though that might change as 2019 goes on. So I think Lewis is quite happy with his result, and this is what he had to say after qualifying had finished. He said, "Valtteri's been stellar all weekend. There is more time left on the table, but I'll try and get it tomorrow." Yeah, I think he knows that he didn't quite hook up that lap at the end of qualifying, but as he said, there is more time on the table, and I think he is pretty confident that he can get the race win tomorrow. But for Mercedes, and I didn't think I'd be saying this, but no doubt after qualifying, they are the favourites for the victory tomorrow in the Grand Prix. Not only because of the gap they had to Ferrari in qualifying, but also because they have a front row lockout, and their race pace, or their race simulation pace, was very, very strong on Friday compared to Ferrari. So they are absolutely the favourites for the race win, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they ended up with a third consecutive 1-2 finish in 2019. But there you go, that is Mercedes. And now let's move on to Ferrari, who I have to say were disappointing. Now, I have seen on Twitter that maybe the reason Ferrari were not as quick as we thought they were going to be is because Pirelli, I believe, increased the tyre pressure by, I think, a full 1 psi. I think that is what has happened. If anyone can correct me on that, then please do, if I am wrong. So I've seen that as a possible explanation, but I am going to call BS on that. I don't think that is the reason Ferrari have ended up a third of a second off pole position. I don't think that's the case. I just don't think the Ferrari car, when it mattered, was quick enough, especially in the first two sectors. I just don't think the Ferrari car was good enough to beat Mercedes today. I just don't think they had the grip. Maybe they do have the power in a straight line, but I don't think they do have the grip, especially, particularly in the middle sector. In the middle sector, that Mercedes car, compared to the Ferrari, there is no real competition. The Ferrari just cannot match them in that middle sector. So I think, honestly, it is down to just the grip of the car. Maybe if the tyre pressure has had an effect, I don't think it's 0.3 of a second. I don't believe it is. I don't think it would have had that big of an effect. I think Mercedes still would have got the front row because yesterday, before they changed the tyre pressure, Mercedes was still pretty quick and pretty close to Ferrari. So, you know, it's not like Ferrari were, what, 3/4 of a second ahead, and then you've got this result. Mercedes have been close. If they haven't been fastest, they've been close all weekend, and actually have topped every session except, I believe, for practice one. So I don't think it has that much at all to do with tyre pressures. I honestly don't believe that. But this is what Vettel had to say at the end of qualifying. He said, I think we had a good session. Maybe there was a tiny bit more. He's talking about, you know, how much time there's left in the car. And then he says, I actually was quite happy that I got the final attempt because it was quite tight on time. Yeah, I've actually gone back and looked. Vettel only just about crossed the line to do a final attempt, and thank God he did, because if he did not, because he was behind his teammate, he would have ended up being out-qualified by Leclerc and in P4. So Sebastian did well to get to the line, and look, we've criticised Vettel plenty since Bahrain and during race day in Bahrain, but I think today he did pretty well. You know, out-qualified his teammate, even though his teammate came out and said that his lap wasn't that good. But I think he did well. I think Sebastian did well today, did the best he could with the grip of his car and the machinery he had. So there you go. But for Charles Leclerc, as I said, his final attempt in qualifying was not that good. He even came out and said that it was quite I think he said it was quite a poor lap and that he was quite disappointed in himself. So if he did a lap he was happy with, he might have ended up finishing third and maybe closer to the Mercedes cars on the front row. But I think in general, I just don't think Ferrari have the pace. I just don't think they do, because if you look at the first three races, this is the most aerodynamic or grip heavy track we have come to so far, or, you know, the track that where aero means the most. That this is the most aerodynamic track we have come to so far. Bahrain is basically a power circuit, and Australia kind of is as well, because it's plenty of fast corners that you barely brake for or lift off for. So this is the first proper aerodynamic track with plenty of tough corners, and Ferrari just don't have the grip like Mercedes do. Again, they might have the power, but they don't have the grip, and I think that is something we are going to be seeing over the course of 2019. Ferrari having the power and Mercedes having the grip. It'll suit Ferrari at some tracks, it won't at others. But yeah, I just don't think Ferrari are that quick. And for the Grand Prix tomorrow, I don't think they are going to be that good. I think they'll be on the podium. I think they'll definitely get the podium with one of their cars. I don't know which one as of yet. But I just don't think they have a car that is ready to win a Grand Prix, say for this weekend. The only way they can is if they pull off either a master strategy or, you know, the Mercedes cars run into trouble, whether that's crashes, botched pit stops, reliability issues. Honestly, that's what I think of the situation at the top. So yeah, not looking that great for Ferrari. It really is not looking that great for Ferrari. But next up, we go on to Red Bull, who had, I think, even though Max Verstappen had a bit of a weird moment at the end of the session, and maybe he could have improved to go into P3, I I think Red Bull have done still well enough. Locking out the third row, that's what we expected from them this weekend in terms of pace. So I think they've done absolutely fine. Verstappen P5, Gasly P6. Max, again, could have improved to go into P4 or P3. But I think tomorrow, even if he doesn't get an amazing start and gets up to, say, third or fourth, I still think he's going to be very competitive, especially in the battle for a podium. So definitely watch out for Verstappen tomorrow. But yeah, I thought they did all right, Red Bull, and especially Verstappen. I think he did pretty well. The miscommunication at the end, yeah, I think he was partly to blame. But in terms of speed during the day, I think he did absolutely fine. But I just want to say, for Pierre Gasly, I think that I think he deserves a shout out for his performance. Now, if you look at his lap compared to Max's, yeah, Pierre is miles off and he does have to improve his speed. But in terms of his position, he has, I think, done well, because you have to remember there's a lot of pressure on him. He doesn't have a lot of confidence right now. Hasn't really done anything that positive at all during 2019 up to this point. So I think he did well to qualify in 6th. The only worry, again, is the lap time, because he was only just ahead of Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hülkenberg and was almost a second behind Max Verstappen. That's a worry. That is a definite worry. And I think Gasly could end up being beaten by the two Renaults tomorrow because of his lack of confidence and speed. But in terms of position, I think he did what the team would expect him to do. So I can't, argue against that, honestly. And for tomorrow's Grand Prix, if the top 5 ahead of him finish the Grand Prix and don't have any massive issues, then Gasly needs to finish in 6th place. But if anyone ahead has an issue, then he has to capitalise on that. So as long as Gasly, say if there is an issue in the top 5, if Gasly finishes in the top 5, then I think that'll be a good result going forward for him, considering the lack of speed and confidence that he does have right now. And I don't think going into the next race in Baku that will improve, because Baku, I think Red Bull might struggle a bit, especially in the Grand Prix. But before I go on to the midfield, I just want to hear from you guys in the live chat and also the comment section down below as to what you thought of the top teams and how they performed in qualifying for the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix. So let me know right now, again, in the live chat or the comment section, and I'll try to read out as many comments as I can in the next few minutes. But also, guys, don't forget to subscribe for tomorrow's content, where at 6 a.m. UK time, 1 hour exactly before the race starts, I will be live with the race watch along for the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix. And then between 12 and 12:30 p.m. UK time, that's about 3 hours after the race finishes, I will be live again for the review of the Grand Prix. So make sure to subscribe for that content coming up tomorrow on the channel. You can either subscribe on the bottom right of the screen, or of course, go to my homepage, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for that content coming up tomorrow morning and also lunchtime/afternoon. Yeah, I'm going to read out your comments and see what you guys have to say when it comes to the top teams and how it all fared out for those teams in qualifying today. Ramesh, I think it is, says, if Gasly performs like this, then I think he will get axed even before the season ends. Red Bull is not a kind team to its drivers. even if he did, qualify and finish in the top 6, with that lack of pace, I think eventually he would get dropped anyway, because look, unless we absolutely know that there is a definite talent difference, there is no excuse in Formula 1 to be 1 second or close to a second slower than your teammate in the same car. There is no excuse whatsoever. Yeah, you can say, oh, my teammate put in a great lap. Formula 1 drivers are very, very talented and very, very highly skilled. They should not be ending up qualifying that far behind in terms of lap time behind their teammates. So for me, that is not good enough. Position-wise, I think Gasly did well today, but in terms of speed, he has to improve that a lot. He needs really to be, for me, maximum. This is the thing. I'm not asking Pierre Gasly to be right there on pace with Max Verstappen and be, a tenth off or half a tenth off. If Pierre Gasly was a quarter of a second slower than Max Verstappen, at best, for me that'd be good enough, because I think that is probably, at best for Gasly's sake, the gap that does exist between those two drivers. So if he qualified today a quarter of a second slower than Max and in P6, I'd say, you know what, that's absolutely fine. He did as he was expected to do. But, even though he did qualify in 6th, where he is expected to qualify at this Grand Prix, to end up almost a second off, that's not good enough. That's, 3/4 of a second slower than you should be compared to your teammate, if your teammate is for sure better than you. So, again, not good enough pace-wise from Pierre Gasly. Position-wise, good enough today, but the speed has to improve. It absolutely has to improve. Ramesh says, and it makes a great point, Max was half a second faster than Gasly and harder tyres in Q2. Exactly. And once you, take out the difference between the harder tyres and the softer tyres, it equates to about a second. And that's what it was at the end of qualifying. So, not good enough for Pierre. And I mean, if he gets beat, if he finishes the race tomorrow and doesn't have really any issues, if he gets beat by Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault, a Renault car that on its best day at the moment is probably 3/4 of a second a lap slower than the Red Bull, if not a second slower, if he gets beat by Ricciardo in the Grand Prix on pure speed, that will be so embarrassing. So embarrassing. Like, we know Daniel Ricciardo is better than Pierre Gasly. When, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to tell that. But to get beaten in a car that is a midfield car when you're in a top 3 car or a top team car, a car or a seat that plenty of people on the grid who are in the midfield would die to be in that seat, such as Hulkenberg, Grosjean, Magnussen, Kvyat, Albon, Norris, Sainz, drivers like that, they would die to be in that car. Considering that Red Bull are a top team and they do have the pace on plenty of occasions to finish on the podium, if not win races. So he definitely, in the Grand Prix tomorrow, Pierre Gasly has to make sure he does not get beaten by any of the Renaults especially. He cannot get beaten on pure speed by a midfield runner tomorrow, because if he does, then that might already be the sign of his end at Red Bull. I don't think it should be. I think he should be given until Monaco to see if he does improve on his speed and also results. I'd give him till Monaco. But we've seen with Red Bull and Helmut Marko, they won't even at times give you until the Spanish Grand Prix. Just look at Danny Kvyat. 2 races before he was dropped, finished on the podium in China. 2 races later, is dropped back to the midfield in the Toro Rosso. So don't be surprised if Pierre Gasly gets dropped and Danny Kvyat gets promoted or someone like that. It would be a massive shock, but it'd be a massive shock for Kvyat to come back into the Red Bull. But don't be surprised if Gasly gets dropped, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I think I'll now move on to the midfield. And we'll start off with Renault. Great day for Renault. A 4th row lockout. I was about to say a front row lockout. A 4th row lockout. P7 and P8. They were very close on lap time. And I think Renault got the absolute most out of their car in qualifying. They did the absolute best they could. And it's nice to see that Renault are performing basically how we thought they would for 2019. We expected this for 2019, but in the first 2 races, they didn't show it. But so far this weekend, they have shown that. And hopefully in the race tomorrow, they can as well. I think in the race they will, because Renault famously always have good race pace. They always are better in the races than they are in qualifying. So you know when they qualify well, that they are in for a great Grand Prix. They could beat Gasly tomorrow for sure, the 2 Renaults. They just got to make sure they don't get involved in any chaos at the start. With Magnussen and Grosjean behind, it's not too far away, of course. Yeah, if they don't get involved in any chaos and have a good start, they could beat Gasly in the Red Bull. And if there's any retirements ahead, then don't be surprised if, say, Ricciardo or Hülkenberg finishes in P5. It's possible. Definitely possible. Not in terms of pure pace, but if they can beat Gasly on pure pace and then hope for retirements or issues ahead, it's possible for a top 5 finish. So Renault looking very good. Great to see. And I think Daniel Ricciardo has now finally started. I'm not going to say that he has absolutely settled into Renault now or settled into that car, but he's definitely starting for sure now to settle into the Renault car. There's no doubt about that. Qualifying 7th and beating Hülkenberg, I think, pretty much proves that. Next up is McLaren. Poor day for McLaren, I have to say it. You know, Bahrain, they were great. We were all happy that, for their performance in Bahrain. But today was really, really poor. They were actually worse in qualifying today than they were last year. Last year, they were 13th and 14th. And last year was a disastrous season for McLaren in terms of speed. Today, 14th and 15th. That's just nowhere near good enough. I know McLaren tend to be good with race pace and good with tyres, but I don't think they're gonna have a great a great Grand Prix, or a Grand Prix where they're sailing through the midfield and getting into the points. I think they have a good chance of points for sure, especially with Carlos Sainz, who is, I think, definitely better at this track than Lando Norris is. But it's not, it's not an absolute certainty for me that McLaren are going to compete for points. It's kind of a 50-50, but it's also based on if the soft tyres for the top runners wear out. Oh, not the top runners, but the top people in the midfield, whether the soft tyres run out or not, whether the tyres for everyone, whether on the medium, wear out. It depends on quite a few things for McLaren to get into the points. So it's kind of 50-50 based on their qualifying position. Not great for McLaren, but they were always going to come back down to earth, I guess, after the performance of their car in Bahrain. I'm going to be honest, I knew McLaren weren't going to absolutely replicate that performance in terms of speed from Bahrain to Shanghai. I thought McLaren would be better than 14th and 15th on the grid, but I knew they weren't going to be as good, if you know what I mean. But yeah, McLaren, not good performance at all, and they've got to get a better result in the Grand Prix if they are going to put up any, strong, consistent challenge to the other midfield teams such as Renault, Haas, and Alfa Romeo. Talking of Alfa Romeo, let's move on to them now, and not a good day for Alfa. Giovinazzi did not go out on track and will start the Grand Prix for 19th. Not good for Alfa, but let's be honest, considering his pace this weekend, I don't think he would have ended up getting out of Q1 anyway, because he's been dead slow this weekend and was going to get knocked out probably in 17th place, 16th place. So even though again he had the issue and that's not good, it wouldn't have made that big of an effect on his grid position. He was going to start around the same area anyway. Kimi Räikkönen, though, I think will be a bit disappointed in 13th. I think he probably feels as though he could have got, say P11, P10 even. But I've said in the Chinese Grand Prix preview and in the build-up to the qualifying watch-along, which, by the way, if you want to check out the qualifying watch-along, the link below, there is a link below in the description to that stream that I did earlier. I said in the build-up that I don't think Alfa are going to be that great this weekend. But I did say that there is a possibility of Kimi Räikkönen getting into Q3. But yeah, after this, maybe my worries as to their grip of their car and pace of their car have come true. But yeah, not good for Alfa. I think Kimi, though, could end up in the points. I'm not putting that in serious doubt, because we know Kimi Räikkönen is a fantastic race driver. So I think Kimi could end up getting in the points. But is it likely? I wouldn't say it's likely. But if they do get in the points, then I think it has been a successful weekend for this team, considering the grip of their car and the speed of their car. So for Alfa, as long as they finish in the points, I don't think anything else matters, because they're not going to be strong this weekend. They were never really going to be. And I think Baku will be the next Grand Prix where this team is really quite good. So Baku, I think they'll be good. But here, as long as they come away with a points finish tomorrow, I don't think they'll be too alarmed by the pace of their car. Next up is Haas. Haas did better than what I was expecting from them. P9 and P10. They did not set a proper lap time in Q3. I don't know for sure why that is, but I will find out and update you guys in the build up to the race, in the race watch along stream tomorrow. I will let you guys know as to why they did that once I find out for sure. But yeah, Haas, in terms of their grid position, I think they've done well. I think that was the best they could do. This track is not historically good for them. So they were never expected to be at the front of the midfield. But I don't know, for tomorrow I just have this really bad feeling for Haas that they're just going to drop and drop and drop continuously through the field, because Haas are probably the worst team in the midfield on their tyres. They wear them out a lot. But the thing that's going to make it tough for them this weekend is that we have a step softer tyres here in Shanghai than we did in Bahrain. And tyres at this track are very, very important, especially on race day, because tyre wear in those fast corners can be quite troubling. And because they're going to start the Grand Prix on soft tyres, they're going to be under threat massively in the first stint. And I think are definitely Haas doing 2 stops tomorrow because their tyre wear is so bad. But yeah, I do have a bad feeling for Haas that they're not going to do well tomorrow. And I think I'm going to be under threat from Sergio Perez in the Racing Point, Danny Kvyat in the Toro Rosso, and also Kimi Raikkonen in the Alpha, and then the 2 McLarens of Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. I think they will be under threat from those drivers in the Grand Prix tomorrow. So for Haas, not looking great for the race tomorrow. A good qualifying result, but I think the race tomorrow is going to be a real tough one. And if they can come away with a points finish, then I think that'd be a successful result considering what I'm expecting from them in tomorrow's Grand Prix. Next up is Toro Rosso. Of course, Alexander Albon did not do qualifying because he really badly damaged his car in practice 3 and came out and admitted that he was way too greedy, looking for speed looking for grip rather, where there was no more grip left. So yeah, disappointing for Albon. He made a big mistake, but you know, he's a young driver, new to Formula One. I think we would expect drivers to make mistakes. So I'm not going to absolutely rag on the guy because, again, he's young. And this is the first mistake that has actually cost him this season. So I'm not going to, again, rag on the guy. Disappointing error. He could have been in the fight for the top 10, but there you go. He can still have a good Grand Prix tomorrow. And I think if tomorrow he comes through and finishes 12th or 13th, then that'll still be, if you take out the error, still be a good weekend for Alexander Albon. But I will say also, Danny Kvyat I thought did well today, qualifying in P11. Because this weekend I wasn't expecting massive things from Toro Rosso. I thought maybe there'd be, I don't know, 13th, 14th, 12th at best, but P11 and being not too far away from getting in the top 10, I think is a good result for Danny Kvyat. And considering how Toro Rosso, normally when it comes to the Grand Prix, they tend to have good race pace, I think they're going to have a strong race in terms of race pace. Whether Danny Kvyat can get into the points, we will see. But I'm going to say I'm not expecting them to finish in the points. Honestly, I wouldn't expect them to finish in the points. I think drivers like Kimi Raikkonen and even Carlos Sainz in the McLaren are more, say, likely to finish in the points. So, yeah, not expecting a points finish, but if he does get one, then a great result for Toro Rosso, as they're having a decent start to 2019, I think. Next up, though, is Racing Point. About expected, honestly. Lance Stroll, 16th place, getting knocked out in Q1. We've seen that story a million times. We all know why he got knocked out, because he's not quick enough. Sergio Perez, P12. I think he did well today. A good performance by Perez. I didn't think the Racing Point would be that far up. He was, I think, at one point in the top 10 before the final run in Q2. So maybe he could have been faster, but I think P12's all right. And considering how Racing Point improved for the races, and considering that Sergio Perez is such a great race driver compared to what he's like in qualifying, I think he's done well there, and I think they're setting themselves up for a possible points finish. Again, like Toro Rosso, I'm not expecting a points finish. I expect a points finish or a strong challenge for a points finish from, say, Carlos Sainz and Kimi Raikkonen. But he's right in there with a chance for sure. No doubt about that. So watch out for Sergio Perez and the Racing Point team tomorrow in not in qualifying, in the Grand Prix. And of course, finally, we have Williams. The only positive is that they won't start on the back row of the grid, but that's because Giovinazzi and Albon did not set a lap time. I do want to shout out George Russell, though, because I think he was within a second of Lance Stroll in the Racing Point. And we know that Williams' car is not within a second of the Racing Point. So, Russell, well done. And also Kubica, well done. He was only, what, 0.02 of a second behind Russell? So the two Williams drivers did the absolute best they could. But of course, the car is absolutely terrible. But, guys, right now in the live chat and also the comment section, let me know, what did you think of the midfield runners? Did you think that, say, Haas weren't as good as you thought or better? What did you think of Renault? Were McLaren really disappointing for you? Were you impressed by Kvyat and Perez? What do you think of Kimi Raikkonen? Let me know right now in the live chat and in the comment section, and I'll try to read out as many comments as I can for the next 5 minutes or so, and then I will come to the end of this review of qualifying. So, and Nib saying, and also JB saying, apparently Russell complained that he had a poor lap. Well, I think that shows how quick of a driver he is, honestly. And Russell, he's such a quick driver, so good. I honestly can't believe he's in such a bad car. If he was in even the Racing Point that's not that good, it's a lower midfield car, I think he would be really showcasing the talent he does have. But in that Williams, how is he supposed to showcase how good he is? He can't. Unless we get a wet race and he absolutely has an incredible performance where he beats midfield drivers on pure pace. But in the wet, you need downforce, and the Williams doesn't have any. So I feel sorry for Russell and also Kubica, because how can he prove that he's good enough after what, not 5 years away, 6, 7 years away? How can he prove that he is better or just as good? He can't. He can't prove that at all. So that is really a shame for both drivers, but there you go. Right, let's read out some comments in regards to more interesting teams. By the way, thank you to L for Wal, who says, by the way, this is a very professional analysis, Chatter. Thanks for that, no problem. And professional chat too. Thanks to everyone. I subscribed and activated the alerts too. Thank you very much for doing that. Really do appreciate it. And also, I appreciate you liking my analysis and I guess what I have to say about the teams and drivers. So thank you very much for that. Right, let me find some more comments here. Francisco makes a great point. Kimi with the free choice of tyres at the start might be a threat. Kimi Raikkonen is such a great race driver. If he started on the soft tyres, I think he'd have a great Grand Prix still. And the soft tyres are not the tyres you want to start on for the Grand Prix. That's the way Kimi is. So yeah, he will probably start on the medium compound and have a very good first stint if he doesn't get involved in trouble. And then he will get himself right in there for a points finish. And again, if Alpha finish in the points, it's been a good weekend for them, because I don't think this is a good track for them. And if you actually look at the calendar, I think this is one of the weaker tracks on the calendar for that car. I think Baku, they're going to be a lot faster, and I think Kimi Raikkonen will definitely be in the top 10 in qualifying in Baku. But here, it's kind of expected for them to not be in that top 10 shootout. But I've just had A donation from Bobby Pinard, who is actually in our Discord server. So thank you very much for that. He's donated $4.99 and says, I fell asleep after Q1 and just woke up. What the hell happened to Haas? Well, to be honest, Haas actually had a better qualifying than they were expected to, because in practice 2 they were 15th and 17th, and then in practice 3 they were 17th and 18th. So they actually did pretty well considering what they were doing earlier in the weekend, but compared to, say, Melbourne and Bahrain, I think it's down to the track. I just don't think that car suits this track. I don't think, if we were at Silverstone this weekend, I think Haas would be right at the front of the midfield and be very, very quick. But because it's this track and with these tyres, I just don't think they have the grip to live with teams like Renault, for example. But Bobby, thank you very much for the donation. Really do appreciate that. And by the way, guys, if you do want to donate, the donation button is next to the emoji button at the bottom of the live chat, where you can, of course, type in the chat. So if you want to donate, then go ahead and do so. Right, let me read out some more comments when it comes to the midfield. Astro Stevo says, cautiously optimistic for Renault, will be happy to see them finish in the points. Renault need to finish in the points of both cars, but I think Renault honestly need, how many points do they need? If Renault finish 7th if Renault finish in P7 and P8, then that's been a good weekend, I think. P7 and P8, if they do that, then good weekend. But if they're going to make it a great weekend, then maybe P6 and P8 or P6 and P7. But P7 and P8 should be the, what we want to achieve at the very least, if you know what I mean. Right, let me read out more comments here. Just trying to look. And by the way, I've had another donation from Bobby Pinard. Again, $4.99. And he asks, does anyone know why Haas did not set a Q3 lap? I actually haven't had the time to look, but I will do a piece on Haas in the build-up to the race tomorrow in the race watch along and update you guys as to exactly why Haas did not complete a full lap in Q3. Astro Stevo thinks it's to do with tyre wear. My best guess is it's to do with tyres. Nib says it's also getting held up in the queue, but I think it has something to do with tyres and maybe saving them for the Grand Prix, because I think Haas are basically guaranteed to do a 2-stop race tomorrow. So maybe they are saving tyres because they know that they're not going to be that quick in the race, because their race pace does tend to be quite poor compared to the other midfield teams. But I'll read out a couple more comments, guys, and then I'll come to the end of this stream. Simon Troop says Russell is getting everything out the car. Absolutely. And you know what? I'm going to end on this comment from Astro Stevo. In regards to the fight for the race win tomorrow, he says, suspect tomorrow will be one of those days the Mercedes just make it a cakewalk and no contest unless they have a close race between them or they crash at the start. Mercedes are 100% the favourites for the Grand Prix tomorrow. But I will say, if a Ferrari can get into the top 2, then I think it is not game on for the whole Grand Prix, but it's definitely game on for the first stint of the Grand Prix. So if a Ferrari, again, does get into, say, second and can follow closely to Bottas or Hamilton, whoever it is, then it's game on for a certain period of the race for sure. So make sure to tune into the race tomorrow, because it is going to be definitely a good race. I don't think it will be as good as Bahrain, but it will be better than Australia for sure. I think we're in for a good race. Maybe not a great race, but definitely a good one. So hopefully we'll get that tomorrow, and I think we will. But guys, thank you very much for coming along to this qualifying review. Again, apologies if the stream started a bit too late. Again, I had some issues syncing my OBS to my my live dashboard, which is annoying, but there you go. Hopefully that'll be fixed for tomorrow, and if it isn't, then I'll make sure to find a fix before I go on live. But yeah, don't forget, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as tomorrow at 6:10 a.m. UK time, I will be live for the race watch along. That's 1 hour exactly before the race starts, and then I'll be live until about half an hour or 45 minutes after the race finishes, and then I will do a race review between 12 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. UK time for about say an hour or an hour and 15 minutes. So that is coming up tomorrow, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that. Either bottom right of the screen, you can hit subscribe right there, or go to my homepage, click subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Also, like this video and comment down below what you thought of this video and what you thought of qualifying and the performances from several teams and drivers in today's qualifying session in Shanghai. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chaz611, a great place to keep up to date with me and the channel. Don't forget to join our Discord server. That's the hardcore Chazza HDF1 community, and also that is the best place for notifications for my videos and streams. So if you want the best place for notifications, join the Discord server. I think the link is third from bottom. And also, don't forget to check out my website, chazzahd.com, for more content like this. But guys, until the race watch along for the 1000th Grand Prix in Formula 1 history, the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix. Until then, at 6:10 a.m. UK time, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.